This is the full implementation for the socket project for Sean Barrios, group number 89 in CSE 434. Okay, so in this setup, we're just testing out everything. So go ahead and close everything. Basically, these two terminals over here are connected to journal3.asu.edu, and these two are connected to Journal 4 and Journal 5. I have the bank set up to output all of the information to this text file, so it's a little bit easier to see, and I don't have to keep four terminals open. Go ahead and close out that because we're not going to need that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Yes, I need to compile both programs, so compile both Java customer and bank. All right, so let's compile correctly. Now I'm going to open up the bank to display its output in the text file. Okay, now I'm going to just close this because we're not going to need that. And then resizes a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to open up a customer on each of these. So we'll open up somebody here called Tom, give him 100. He's on the general 3, so it's going to be 105. Port number for the bank and port number for him. I'm going to open up each customer at 45-200, just so it's easier for me to go through the step-by-step process. Okay, so now I'm going to open up, so Hank at 100, 10.120.70.146. Okay, and then now the same over here. This time we're going to open up Rick, 110.120.70.113. Okay, so now we have a customer open, 3 customers open. Man, why? Okay, so I ran the test command, and in the bank information, you can see that we have a customer map and a cohort map. And I used this test command just so I could see what's going on globally in the bank, right? So we could do our transfers and everything between each customer, but the bank's going to have some information, and that's basically going to be the global process of how we're going to initiate checkpoints. Well, the checkpoints are going to happen between each customer, but rollbacks, and all that stuff will be handled by the bank. And a rollback could be issued anytime, right? So if I were to, let's say I deposit $300, right? He's not in a cohort, so I can't print it yet. But okay, yeah, that's not good. Anyways, so I just realized now that the way that I did rollbacks was assuming you were in a cohort. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that screws it up. Anyways, we'll just go from there. So now we'll just listen for a cohort on each of these guys and do a new cohort with Rick with 3 people. Okay, so now we have print cohort, and we'll print the cohort to make sure I didn't screw up anything. I probably did though. So because I deposited 300, this global balance has 400, right? But I wonder if I deposit another like 50. Yeah, so it gives the correct one. Okay, so I didn't screw anything up. It's still updated to the correct value. So I gave him 300 before, I gave him 50 this time. So now he had 450, and it reflects it in his cohort information. But if I wanted to roll back and just set his balance back to what I want it to be, I would just initiate a rollback command here. Now you can see that if I print the cohort, he should have $100 again, right? So then if I do a deposit of any amount, like $50, he has 150, right? Then do another rollback, and he's now back to 100. Okay, all right. So that's good that didn't screw up anything. All right, so now everybody is in a cohort. We'll show that we have that in our database in the bank. Okay, now we're just going to do some deposits. So I'm going to do some deposits into Tom and Hank first because we're going to do a transfer between them first. So I'm going to give him 300. All right, now he has 400. And we'll do a deposit of 250, right? And then withdraw. So we'll just do 25. Withdraw 25. Now we're going to print his cohort information. This is only done locally or only taking his current balance and updating his information in his local cohort. It's going to be the same over here for Tom, right? So if we go see Tom, he thinks Hank still has $100 and he has $400. All right, so now I'm going to do a transfer. So when I do a transfer, I'm going to have Rick listen because after the person listening for the transfer processes the transfer, he's going to update the cohort information based off of what Tom's balance is and his balance, and everybody's going to have the reflected balance, right? So if I transfer $25 from Tom, which I'll do, so we'll just set up everything to do that. So we're going to see receive new cohort and listen for a transfer, right? And he's listening for a transfer now. Now we're going to transfer $25 to Hank. It's the first time we're going to transfer. So now if he transfers $25, he should have 375 and Hank should have 350, right? And then it's going to update, everybody's going to have that update information, right? So if we go over here, we should see the updated information in his cohort. So yes, Hank has 350 and Tom has 375. It's basically going to be the same for everybody because this isn't a lost cohort simulation. Um, now everybody has the update information. We could run a checkpoint command. We'll run the checkpoint command over here on Brick. Now he's just going to listen for the cohorts. He's going to get cohorts, or these guys' local cohorts, to check against all of them. And if they're all the same, then it's going to say, it's successful. Then we're going to send that to the bank, update the bank's information. If it's unsuccessful, we're going to roll back to the last checkpoint that was good to go by the bank, which in this case would have been the original one. But since it's good to go, we'll do the checkpoint. So he's waiting for the message from 146, which is Hank. So we're going to do send checkpoint to the initiator's IP. So it's 10.120.70.113.45.200. It's the reason why I want to do all the same port numbers so that I don't accidentally screw it up. So now he's listening to 105. Send the checkpoint there. 10.120.70.10. No, 113.45.200. Okay, so yeah, you can see here checkpoint is successful. Send updated info to bank. You can do this from anybody. So send to bank. Send that. Bank updates its cohort information and it gives you a message saying it's complete. And then you can just test to make sure the information is correct. All the customer balances are pulled from the cohort balances, right? So if these are correct, it's because these were correct. Well, I'll just demonstrate to make just to show that they were. So Rick is 100, Hank is 350 right here, and then we'll go scroll over. Tom is 375. Uh, yeah, it's just easier to see from here. But this gets updated first, and then the customer takes in that new cohort information and updates it every customer's balance. Okay, so now we know that it works for these two. Now we'll do a transfer between these two, do another checkpoint, and then I'll demonstrate a lost checkpoint between each. So we'll go over here. Hank has 350, right? So I'm gonna withdraw. We'll withdraw $100 from Hank, right? So now he should have 250 in his cohort, and I'm gonna deposit 200 into Rick. Just spelled deposit wrong. All right, print his cohort. Now he has 300. Hank has 250, right? But if I transfer, basically switch it, I'm going to transfer $50 from Rick. Well, actually, I did it last time with Hank, right? Hank received it, so I'll send it from Hank this time and give Rick 50. So Rick should end up with 350. Hank should end up with 200, right? So now we're going to go over here. We got to make sure we're receiving that new cohort. Yeah, so receive new cohort. All right, that's right. And we'll listen for the transfer here for transfer. All right, now Rick is listening, so now we're going to transfer $50 to Rick. First transfer to Rick. And there we go. So now see Hank now has 250 and Rick now has 300, whereas Rick had 300 before. Hank had 250. And we could verify everybody has the same. So 352, 375, 352, 375. And we'll run the checkpoint command this time from Hank. Checkpoint, he's waiting for 113, which is Rick, so we'll send checkpoint to 10.120.70.146 45 200. Now is this for Tom? Send checkpoint to 10.120.70.146 45 200. All right, so now we got checkpoint was successful. Send update info to bank. We'll send it from Rick this time. Send to bank. Update was complete. Give a demonstration. We're at 375, 200, 350, 350, 200, 375. Okay, so that's demonstration of the compilation running on 4 distinct endhopes. Then we started the bank program with at least 3 customer programs, issued the new cohorts, and that's the checkpoints. And okay, yeah, we did a checkpoint on different customers. Now we're going to do deposits and withdrawals and initiate a loss transfer. All right, so the way that I set this up is that a loss transfer is similar to when you listen for a transfer, except when you listen, you're not going to send it to the rest of the people in the cohort. So then when a checkpoint is issued, the transfer is still going to take place. But when the checkpoint is issued, it's not going to see. It's going to see that not all of the customer's information matches up. So basically, it's going to tell you that the checkpoint is unsuccessful, and that you need to initiate a rollback, and then you're going to initiate a rollback to whatever the last checkpoint was for the bank, and from there you start over. Okay, so we'll do it between Tom and Hank first. Okay, so we'll do deposit of $50 to Tom. Tom now has 425. We'll do a deposit of what does Hank have right now? Hank has 200, right? Yeah, I'll do a deposit of 25 for Hank. Now he has 225. All right, so now instead of listen for transfer, we'll do a lost transfer. Right, it's still going to say he's listening for a transfer at port 45 200. He has 425, so we're just going to take 25 from Hank so that he has 200, and then Tom should have 450. Right, so now we're going to transfer $25 to Tom. First transfer to Tom. Right, and hit that. All right, so the transfer was complete. So these two are going to have the same cohort. Right, so 350, 200, 450. 350, 200, 450. But Rick is not going to have that updated cohort information. All right, so when we run that checkpoint command, it's gonna catch this, right? So it's gonna be checkpoint, listen for this guy, or send your information to checkpoint 10.120. 70.113, and he's at 45,200, right? Send it here, send checkpoint 10.120.70.113, 45,200. And it says here, checkpoint was unsuccessful, a rollback is required. And from here, we're just going to initiate a rollback on everybody. You definitely don't have to do it for Rick. We're going to do it anyways. And now we can see that everybody should have the old information, or not the old information, but the global information that was from the bank. Right, so 350, 200, 375, 350, 200, 375, 350, 275. Okay, so yeah, that shows that you can delete, or not delete, you can roll back to the last information. And we'll do one more loss transfer to simulate between these two. So we'll go ahead, I'll deposit. Hank has 200, so I'm going to deposit $100 to Hank because I want to make this so that if you do the math, then you can see it easier. So now Hank has $300, Rick has 350, and we're going to give him deposit $50. Rick has 400. Okay, so I want to make it the same. So I'm going to deposit $50 from Rick to Hank, our transfer. So now we're going to do lost transfer command, transfer $50 to Hank. Second transfer to Hank. Okay, make sure it's right. It should be 350 for both. Yeah, so 350, 350. Even though it doesn't matter because we're gonna have to roll back. I just want to make sure the math was easier. So yeah, 350 and 200. So now what we want to do is we're gonna do a checkpoint from Hank this time. He's listening. He's waiting for Rick to send it. So send check point at 10.120, 70.146. I send checkpoint here. 10.120.70.146, port 45,200. AC checkpoint is unsuccessful, rollbacks required. Go ahead, just do the rollback, and the rollback. And then what we're going to do is just verify. Right, so print cohort, print. Okay, so now you can see it's 352, 375 for each one of them. And that's basically what was, last the last updated information to the bank. So that was my implementation of creating a process to deposit and withdraw for customers and then transfer a certain amount to a customer and make sure that all transfers were received. Everybody has the updated information, and we're using the bank as the global state. Just because that's easier to me, that was easier implementation to make rather than having to store that in a database in different channels, which was my original implementation. But that implementation it would have been a nightmare to actually implement. Just using the bank as global state definitely was a little bit easier to make sure that, or you can transfer between each. Okay, so now we have to show deposit, withdraw, transfer. Okay, so now I have to delete every cohort and then exit out of the customers. So, okay, to delete a cohort, we have to listen on the customers that are not issuing the delete a cohort command, right? So then it's delete cohort, and this is Tom, right? So now, okay, so now you can see set message success. It should have, so in here, my delete cohort command, it goes through each customer and deletes their cohort locally. So if we go here, we print the cohort, there's no cohort because everybody was taken out of the cohort, right? And if we test to make sure it's not in the bank also deleted the cohort. Uh, yeah, so now, uh, yeah, I, it still says they're in a cohort. So if I were to make a new one, it wouldn't be able to. So that's something that I probably should, implement, make sure that I set those flags to false. But yeah, other than that, now I'm gonna exit out of, who is this, Tom? All right, so he's out, exit out of Hank, he's out, and then exit out of Rick. And just to test that the bank is totally clear, now we could just do the test command. You can see that there are no more customers or cohorts in the bank. The bank essentially is just empty, right? Also, I did another implementation here where we could just close the bank. So now the bank process is stopped. It's no longer taking any inputs, and we just exit here. Now everything is cleared out. The bank is closed, and that is my implementation for the full socket project. This was my output. I could probably save this to a text file, and include it in my report uh, for reference. But yeah, that was my full implementation for the socket project.